So this is a comparison video. This is between Virtua Fighter and Virtua Fighter 2 on the Sega Saturn. Unfortunately, it's a shame that I couldn't get like Virtua Fighter Remix and the 32X version of Virtua Fighter for this, because I mean it really would have shown the the differences between Virtua Fighter 1 and 2, but that's just the way it is, I guess. So yeah, so the arcade Virtua Fighter in the arcades came out in 1993, so just such a long time ago now, and just like Virtual Racing, it was just, the graphics were absolutely phenomenal for the time. But not only that, Virtua Fighter was a really deep fighter. I mean, if you play it now, it's one that takes a lot to master. It's still playable, you can still pick it up and play it, but it's a very deep fighter. There's a lot of tricks and a lot of stuff that take precise button presses to pull a move off. So it's a very deep fighter, and it just absolutely blew people away back in the day on the arcades, in the arcades rather. And in Japan the arcades were still going really strong. Everywhere else, like in the West, yeah, there was the odd arcade dotted about the place, but that you didn't find one in every town back then. And I guess they weren't really massive like they used to be, but in Japan I think they're still pretty big in Japan. And but at the time when Virtua Fighter was released, the arcades were really solid in Japan. And like I said, games like Virtua Fighter and Virtual Racing just blew people away. So of course Sega Saturn was coming out. Everyone was really excited for the the home port of this really stellar Sega fighting game. And at the time as well, this was like a period where Sega was really pumping out hit after hit after hit in the arcades. I mean, if you look from the kind of early-ish 90s to say the late 90s, they was really pumping out those hits in the arcade where arcade games were concerned. And yeah, so it was coming out on the Sega Saturn, and it came out, and wow, what a shocker. It really wasn't that great. People were pissed off. Obviously it was still, in terms of gameplay, Virtua Fighter 1 is still, it's still got that depth in gameplay. You could still find that depth within the game as you play it, that's still there. But I mean, it wasn't the great home arcade port that people was hoping for. The frame rate was shockingly bad. It was full of bugs and graphical glitches, and it was just crap. People expected better. I mean, the game had actually been rushed out because the Saturn was being rushed out. The Saturn was actually rushed out in Japan, Europe, America, and I think Europe, but I'm not 100% on that. But it was definitely, the Saturn was definitely rushed out for Japan and the US, especially the US, with the botched Saturn Day and all that. But yeah, there was quite a few games that was rushed for the US and for in Japan, and one of them was Virtua Fighter, and it really suffered because of that as well. I mean, you only get the arcade mode and versus, so that's pretty crap. You'd expect a home port to have more playable options, at least I would. And yeah, the graphics are just, I mean, yeah, they kept the raw polygon look, but I think that was an expectation that maybe the graphics would improve for the home port. No one expected it to top anything that was in the arcades, but you know, making that improvement on the home port, making what they could, improving certain aspects of the game for the home console at least, which you'd expect them to add things in for the home port, just to make up for, you know, the lack of graphical grunt that was apparent in the arcades. But Virtua Fighter 1 really didn't have that. Like I said, really poor frame rate, glitchy, bug ridden, just a mess really, just pushed out just for something for people to have for launch, and it suffered because of that, and people were pissed. And you know, it's funny that even though another game that was rushed out and had the same problems, Daytona USA, people still look back with Daytona USA and say, you know, I really liked that game when it was released. Okay, it wasn't great and it was rushed out, but I really enjoyed it. I've never heard anyone say about Virtua Fighter, oh yeah, I remember playing Virtua Fighter back in the day when I got it for my Saturn, it was a brilliant game. Never heard anyone say that about the Virtua Fighter game. So yeah, it's just a shockingly bad port. And the funny thing is, when the 32X, well actually I'll talk about what they did is they knew that it was such a bad port. They knew people were pissed about the Saturn version, so they did the remix, Virtua Fighter remix, which improved upon some of the aspects of what was wrong with Virtua Fighter. But then later, the 32X got a version of Virtua Fighter, and just lo and behold, that version happened to look better than the Saturn version. Now, even though the 32X was a 32-bit like machine, well, I won't say machine, but it was a 32-bit piece of hardware, but it didn't have the graphical grunt that the Saturn had. I mean, the Amiga 1200 was a 32-bit machine, but it couldn't do what the Saturn could. So you know what I mean. But yeah, so the 32X, inferior machine basically, and the Virtua Fighter 1 happened to play better, it looked better, it was just an all-round better version, and is considered the best home port of Virtua Fighter 1. So they kind of had egg on their face with in terms of the Sega Saturn. So then you get Virtua Fighter 2. Now the Virtua Fighter 2 was one of the first games to use the new Sega's new set of libraries for the graphical libraries and graphical interface for the Sega Saturn, and yeah, you can just tell that it's so much better. The frame rate is like solid. Well, I've never noticed any major bugs or glitches in it, and the thing is, it's fast as well. The Virtua Fighter 1 is so slow. It really does chug along quite slow. But Virtua Fighter 2 really is quite fast and fluid. It really does move quicker. The fights are a lot faster. Just an all-round better game, and you can tell with them using the newer operating system and with the new graphical libraries that Virtua Fighter 2 really does look gorgeous. It really does look great. The backgrounds look absolutely awesome. Just an all-round better game, and you know, it just shows that, you know, with them taking their time to do Virtua Fighter 2, that, you know, it pulled off, and they really had to pull it off for Virtua Fighter 2, because like I said, they really had egg on their face with Virtua Fighter 1. I mean, it was just so bad on the Saturn, it really was. And yeah, it's just, like I said, Virtua Fighter 2, just an all-round better game, just a better fighting game, and really is. I don't know why anyone would even want to touch Virtua Fighter 1, really. I've got it in my collection just for collection purposes, but it's not a fighting game I would choose to play on the Saturn. And if I had to do a top 10 of fighting games, it certainly wouldn't be in there at all. So yeah, that's Virtua Fighter 1 and 2 for the Sega Saturn. And yeah, just if you're going to go for Virtua Fighter anywhere, if it's Virtua Fighter 1, then you want the 32X version all the way. If it's but if you've got a Sega Saturn, don't get anything other than Virtua Fighter 2. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys.